Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really pleased to introduce today's speaker. He is Moise Mbarga-Abega, who is a Master of Science candidate at the University of Montreal in the Department of Environment and Sustainability. He expects to graduate in the class of 2024. He's also a 2021 graduate from the University College of London in European and Social and Political Science. He is a Rotary Youth Exchange student from France. He went from France to India in 2014 to 2015, and he was also a RILA student in 2015. He was born in Paris. His goal is to find a job that will contribute to tackling the climate crisis, whether it's through investment consulting or whatever ways else he can help. He is sponsored by the club Paris Porte d'Orléans and hosted by our district. He likes to travel and play tennis. So welcome, Moise, and we look forward to hearing your presentation today.
Yeah, thank you, Eva, for the introduction. So hello, everyone. As Eva said, I'm Moise. I'm French, so I'm sponsored by Paris Porte d'Orléans. If we had been in person, I would have given you the little flag. But thanks for having me. So essentially, this year, since last year, I'm a global scholar with the Rotary International, studying in the 7th axis of the foundation, which is the environment, which was added in 2021. And essentially, the foundation, although it was already allocating a lot of subventions to environment-related projects, it decided that to give the means to Rotarians and wannabe Rotarians to act more for the environment, they would dedicate a whole axis to the environment. So it's quite new, only 2 years. So my experience with Rotary, as Heather explained, I'll just share my little presentation I have, so you can kind of see a little bit. Just loading. So it's in French, but don't worry, I will translate. So yeah, as I said, I'm French, and I went to Coimbatore in India in 2014, 2015 with my Rotary club in Nice, because that's where I grew up. So Nice, Riviera, Côte d'Azur. If you're ever in the area, I strongly advise you to see them because they're really nice. So I went to India with them, and that was my first contact with Rotary. It was amazing and really life-changing. And it gave me the opportunities to better my English, and eventually later on attend university in the UK, which was really great. So really grateful for my club. Essentially why I'm here today is to highlight what I'm doing right now as a global scholar with Rotary, with the Rotary Foundation, and also the other youth oriented projects at Rotary, and for you also to speak to the people about those programs, to promote them, and because they do a lot of good things, and I think they help Rotary being more known in the younger generations, and I think it really creates communities that want to advocate for positive change with Rotary. So it's great. So I'm just going to continue. And obviously, so this is kind of some pictures from India. So we were a lot of exchange students. So I was in 2014, 2015. So we got to travel a lot. I don't know if you've met a lot of exchange students overall, but we always with our flags. There's no picture with the blazers here, but we also have the blazers with the pins. So it's always a fun time. So after that, kind of going to India and taking a sabbatical from my high school studies, allowed me to focus, on my level English because wasn't really good before, and kind of really hone in on that, and then come back to France and study more. So I got to go to University College of London and do more like a 4 years bachelor in European Social and Political Studies, which was really, insightful and interesting. After that, I did. So I don't think it's a thing in Canada, but it's called civil service. It's not exactly. It's like paid volunteering in like a charity of your choice. So I did that for like 8 months in a mental health charity because in France during the pandemic, a lot of students, suffered from it and committed suicide, and they were really unwell, and there was this. It was really underfunded, and there was a mental health crisis, and this charity with which I worked called Nightline in Paris, they helped put this on the political agenda and work with universities and like engineering schools to kind of promote that. This was not like directly related to what I'm doing right now, which is studying environmental sustainability, University of Montreal. But after 4 years in university, I did want to feel like I was more of help and contribute to something that felt more concrete than being in a classroom or just being in my room studying remotely. So that was a great break, and during that time, I was able to reach out to my now sponsored club in Paris, and bring kind of that project to study sustainability in Canada to fruition. So I'm also really grateful for them and the district and all the other clubs in other parts of France that helped, for the funding and just supporting me through this experience. So I specialize in governance and social issues, University of Montreal. So it's more, I'm not a scientist, so it's, yeah, definitely more like political science oriented, governance, ethics. So still in the field of humanities, and still very interesting and more research based. So studying things like the climate gap in the US, so how climate change will impact vulnerable communities more than others. And right now so I started my studies last year, in last September in Montreal. So I'm almost done. This is my last semester of classes, and I'm looking for an internship at the moment, starting January. And then I'll be pretty much finished my master's and kind of looking to enter the work market. What else? Yeah, so I'm looking for an internship. So this is kind of data, like the University of Montreal campus, if you've never seen it. So as I was telling, that's kind of my project, is kind of find a job that fulfills me and contribute to tackling the climate crisis. And as for my Rotarian future, I think I would love, if I join Rotary, to kind of, promote those youth programs. I think what they do also in France, so I'm not fully aware of everything that's done in Canada, but they help, with literacy in school. They do some smaller actions, but that still promote, learning in disadvantaged communities. And I think they can, there's a lot of actions at different scales that can be useful. It doesn't need to be a RILA or the Rotary Youth Exchange, which are longer term commitments and can be not accessible necessarily to everyone. Yeah, so I'd love to get involved with more like youth programs and, actions done by Rotary in the future. That's everything for me. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Tony, for scheduling me in. Yeah, thanks, Hava, for the introduction and for your attention, everyone. Thank you.
Moise,
Yes.
where, when are you looking for work here in Canada, or will you be going anywhere in the world that you can think of?
I think right now it's kind of, I'm open. If it's in Montreal or in Canada, then great. But if it's somewhere else, it's also okay. I think it's kind of depending on the opportunity, but yeah, in starting in Montreal would be a great place.
What would be the most likely types of organizations or companies that you would be applying to?
So I think right now I'm looking more into consulting and sustainable investment. So this is kind of my first, because it's kind of what I'm less knowledgeable about. I think I know more like NGOs and I mean, an international sector is like less cryptic to me than the private sector. So I would kind of want to get to know the private sector and what's done at that level more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah. What is it, Melissa, that drove you to decide you wanted to be in the environmental sustainability area?
I think it started really young, and I think it was kind of a seed that was planted, when it was maybe like 7 or 8, and it was the city I lived in France. I think they gave us like small like recycle like beans, but like as toys. And I think it's kind of that was like a really small thing, but that was not like an eye opener. It's like too big of a word, but I think it kind of started that to pay attention to how I dispose waste. And then we would always do a lot of hikes, like every Sunday, go on like on a hike, because I grew up around in the French Riviera, so around Nice. So we'd always do that. It's because it's such a beautiful area with like lots of nature. So I think when you grow up around there, you develop kind of this love for nature, and you think about it. I mean, I wasn't obsessively thinking about it, but it's just something I was mindful of. And the sea, and have the mountains, so we also have the snow. And I think it over the years, kind of as I grew up and became more aware of the stakes, then it became something that I was like, oh, maybe I want to, invest more time and energy into this, and see where I can take it. Yeah. Done at that level more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Then, I mean, an international sector is like less cryptic to me than the private sector. So I would kind of want to get to know the private sector and what's done at that level more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And became more aware of the stakes, then it became something that I was like, oh, maybe I want to, invest more time and energy into this, and see where I can take it. Yeah.
Any other questions? Or,
Yes. Moise, what exactly do you do in in environmental work? I'm more familiar with the engineering and scientific part of it, having worked in that for a large company. But I mean, what sort of work do you do in that?
In the studies, I think it's more like political, quote unquote, and like advocating and campaigns. And I think one of the first it's also little like not everything is it's always different scale, so it's not always like huge projects of huge scale. But one thing that I did when I arrived at the University of Montreal is that I realized there were so many, like everyone's drinking coffee out of plastic cups, and there was this law that was about to come into action like a couple of months later that prohibited plastic cup disposing. And there was this company, and basically I emailed people at university and I was like, like something could be done about this. And they put me in touch with that company, which is called Cano, and that has a packaging solution. And it was kind of more like liaising between the managers of the coffee across campus and the people at that Cano, at that business, to kind of bring them together and sell the solution, make other people aware of it. So I think, it's more like liaising like political campaigns, and also trying to understand why, certain people might support some policies and not others. And it's
Okay,
that's,
thank you. Interesting. Yeah.
thanks.
Anyone
Any
else?
other? No.
Yeah, feel free to ask me, questions about like, my experience as Rotary Youth Exchange student as well in India, and like the Raila, anything.
So tell me about your experience in India.
Yeah, so it was a funny experience, because when I learned about the Rotary Youth Exchange, I mean, it was a bit late in the admission process, and everyone in France or in Europe, I mean, most of them wants to go to the US or Canada. And my first choice was Canada. I wanted to go to like an English speaking country, but it was too late. So it didn't work. But at the same time, I wanted like a cultural shock. So I don't think I would have, I mean, apart from the Canadian winters, like I don't think I would have had like a huge cultural shock. And anyway, it wasn't available anymore. So one of the countries that they said was available, they were like, you can go to India if you want. And I was like, okay, why not? And it was, it was only me and another girl from my district, and two other French people from two other districts, two Americans, and two German. And so we were in that city, which is called Coimbatore, which is nicknamed the Manchester of India. It's a small city for India. It's only 1 million person, and there's not that many things to do. But it was really fun because there were 30 Rotary clubs in the city. So there were events all the time, and we were really included in the Rotarian community. We invited at all the events, all the weddings. We'd do, some shows at the district conference. We got to do trips around India. So we did the bus tours, like a month in the north and a month in the south with all the exchange students of 3 districts. So it was a really great experience. The school part I didn't, because you have to go to school when you're an exchange student. I didn't really, it's not that I didn't like it, it's because they put me in scientific class, and they were mixing the local language and English. So I was a bit lost, but it was a great experience, and I'm grateful for everyone kind of that was a part of it, and my host families as well.
Interesting.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Moise. Sort of interesting to hear what the Rotaract students are doing, and this program of student exchanges is somewhat new to me.